Welcome back to another video by Variety Memos. My name is Coffee and today I'll be doing a PvP guide on the Valkyrie. So some of the things I'm going to cover are the combinations. I'm also going to cover the build at the start of the video, talk about the abilities that I use and some of the abilities that I don't use and explain why. Then give you a couple of little tips in hopes that will be able to improve you and your Valkyrie gameplay. Alright, so these are my builds. This is my build here for the Valkyrie, and I'm going to explain to you now why I don't have certain abilities on this bar or on my build, and then I'm going to explain to you why I do have those abilities. Then we're going to discuss it more in detail when I actually show you the combinations. So Flurry of Kicks, it's just got to inflict bound on second hit. The damage output's not that great, it's just not worthwhile having in any case, not even PvE. Severing Light, it's got a simple stun, however you've got plenty of other abilities that does something similar, but it's got better damage output and animations just as fast. The Shield Throw, it's got range on it, but you have plenty of openers and such speed that you don't really want to stand there, and it just doesn't have a place for the build. Sword of Judgment, this is really good. This ability works really well with Shield Chase and Sharp Light. These are free abilities that you're going to use a lot, so get used to knowing them. This one here has a daze on it, and the daze happens on the third attack, which happens straight away. It activates straight away if you use it right after Shield Chase. So Shield Chase, it's pretty self-explanatory. It dashes between you and whatever direction you're targeted, and it will go towards the person. It does have a stun on it if it actually hits the person, as long as they haven't had crowd control recently. And then of course, Sword of Judgment will daze it, will stun it. Sharp Light, this has a minus 11 in defense for 5 seconds, so you can use this effectively, and it activates instantly if used after Shield Chase. Once again, depending on the level of your skill books and the level of your ability itself. The Glaring Slash, it has it bound on the last hit, but overall the animation is a little bit slow compared to the other animations that have the same effects and roughly the same damage output. Punishment, just super useful in PvP. It's basically reset whenever you need to hard crowd control a person, so you would always use it in a situation where you have a hard crowd control from your light judgment and the whole animation is nearly over. You would grab them at that point, throw them back on the ground, they're on the ground for another 2 seconds, and then you use your Celestial Spear or whatever it may be to increase the damage output. Celestial Spear, 50% chance to inflict a bound on a hit. So bound is just going to knock the person down. It's a third level of crowd control, very useful. Animation is super fast and it's very accurate, so you would use it whenever the person tries to roll, and whenever like they're just coming out of their roll, you click it and you pretty much guaranteed to hit them, but the range is not that great. Radiant Charge, very important. It has it drops their defense, and it's just great overall how fast it attacks. It's got the forward guard on it. It's just useful. You want this in the build. I prefer to heal because 421 HP is not too bad, and with this build you're consistently ducking in and out due to the fact that Valkyrie is a little bit harder to play, and she's more about opening up opportunities, placing the damage down, and then running back to reset. This one is grants super armor, which is cool for 7 seconds and plus 33 defense, but just not as cool as the heal. Divine Wrath, definitely worthwhile having a look at because it does inflict daze on the first hit and then inflicts knockdown on the last hit. So if you're good at using your Shield Chase and getting in behind the person and then using Divine Wrath to daze them and knock them down and then lead that into a Judgment of Light, then yeah, it's definitely got a place, however not in this particular build. I also like it because it grants the super armor and a plus 17 attack for 10 seconds on hit. That bit's very, very important, and this is the only other ability that I would actually consider changing out something in my build, and maybe even the heals. It just depends on your playstyle and how aggressive you are. Radiant Smite, it's cool because it's got mobility about it and inflicts a bound, but overall it's got plenty of other mobility abilities and it doesn't work as well with the other skills, so I left it off. Judgment of Light, this is your bread and butter. You want to be using this as quickly as possible. It's basically everything around your entire build rotates around this ability and being able to cast it and try to get the full ability off because it does a lot of damage. It grants super armor, it inflicts bound on hit. So ideally you would get behind the person and that would be dazed, and then you would use this, you would knock them down, get the super all the hits off, you lead it into a grab, etc, etc. Anyway, I'm going to explain all of that now. Alright, so the Valkyrie, she actually has a lot of combinations similar to the Giant, and some of them are not so obvious. So the only way I can do this is by breaking it down step by step through each abilities. So the first thing you need to note is that this ability here, your shield chase, is incredibly important, and you're going to use it to outplay and confuse your enemy a lot. So one of the very basic combinations that you're going to use would be the shield chase into the Sword of Judgment, which is this ability here. So you lock onto your opponent, you run into him, and then you do it like that. The reason being is that when you use your shield chase into the Sword of Judgment, it uses the third swing of your Sword of Judgment instantly. The third ability actually dazes the opponent. So leading from the daze, you're able to open up a combo such as a grab or minus a defense or such. The next main ability that you're going to use after the shield chase would be this ability here, which is the Sharp Light. So these two are quite similar. However, this one, it doesn't daze the enemy, but it does drop their defense by X amount, depending on how many skill books you have. And it also casts instantly if used after shield chase. So before I actually move away from the shield chase, I want to show you a bigger combination which you can use, which would be something like this. You've got a couple of abilities. The entire build works around your main ability here called Judgment of Light, but getting it off is the tricky bit. So you need to be aware of how your crowd control works in your character. And you also want to maximize your damage. Normally, most people try and use the Judgment of Light after they've done the grab, but the Judgment of Light actually causes a knockdown by itself if they haven't recently been knocked down. So one of the openings that you may do would be the chase into the Sword of Judgment, which is this ability here, to daze them. Then you switch over to your main ability, which is Judgment Light. Then you jump into the grab, and then you do something like Celestial Spear ×2. So it would look something like this. And at that point, you have to be quick and to grab them, and then you always roll away. Okay, so the Celestial Light, what it does is it hits from about here. It is quite close range compared to a lot of the other abilities by other classes. It has a 50% chance to knock down. So we have to remember that whenever we use the ability, because depending on what happens, should change the way that you actually react to the person. So if you were to use Celestial Light, you're able to use your Sword of Judgment straight afterwards, and it will also react the same way it does after using Shield Chase. It will daze the opponent. That's if you only do that action though if Celestial Light doesn't actually knock them down, like so. And that person should have been dazed depending on how much crowd control you've done on the person, and that's when you try and use your main ability to actually knock them down. When the animation finishes, you go back into a grab and you continue your rotation. Okay, so there's one more ability, well, one more combination that I want you guys to be aware of, and it's super strong and it's extremely simple. So no doubt when you verse Valkyries, they've used this ability here, Charge. It's so good because it runs at such a large distance and it also has a knockdown on them. Let's quickly find it. Here we are. So it has a forward guard as well. All right, now what it does, it increases, here we are, target defense -17, which is substantially more than my Sharp Light, sorry, the -11. So it's an extra -6, but once again, this depends on the actual skill book level that you're at. However, this is what the animation would look like, or the rotation. It would be as simple as running at the person, knocking them over, using your main ability, and placing that damage down. Now, to go on a little bit about the actual tips of when you're playing Valkyrie and some of the things that you need to learn that I can't actually really teach you. You need to kind of try to keep a distance that you can get close to them and attack them when they've tried to do an animation but they're pointing in the wrong direction, but not so close that you're going to be grabbed by the warrior or the giant with their crowd control because they've got a lot more than you. But you can't be so far that the range is just going to lay on you. So this is kind of roughly your playground that you want to go in and attack people. Just remember, whenever you always finish that ability, your Shield Chase has a super low cooldown. So always use that to actually get around them and go from behind and to avoid their abilities. The goal, or the way you win in PvP, is by maximizing your crowd control and damage output whilst dodging their abilities and their crowd control. And part notes. So there's two little things that you kind of can use to be useful. Well, remember, your shield chase is great for as a gap closer, but use it frequently, even if you think you're going to be in a bad position, because it actually increases your own defense, which is going to mitigate damage, which is useful. And then we also have the Elon's heal. So you got two choices. This heal is not as good as the witches, but because of the playstyle where you need to go in, use your judgment of light and stuff, and then you kind of need to wait for it to come back and you're dashing away, it's really good because you've created gaps that you can just heal yourself and then go back into battle. That's why I really like that ability. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I do hope this guide was useful for you. Please have a look at the description and my comment below. There's a whole bunch of videos down there that I think you guys will find extremely useful and relevant for this game. Until next time, coffee out.